Today, we are covering the story of Ashiarai Yashiki, a horrific entity from the Japanese folklore. If you wish to help us reach 1,000 subscribers, please consider subscribing to our channel. We greatly appreciate. Thank you. Now let's get to the video. In the small, coastal town of Ibaraki, Japan, there exists a house, long abandoned and avoided by all. The locals speak in hushed whispers of the Ashiarai Yashiki, the foot-washing mansion. To some, it is a forgotten legend of the Edo period, but to others, it's a very real nightmare that has left scars on generations. The story of this cursed house, passed down through the ages, warns of a grotesque and malevolent entity that visits during the dead of night. Kenji and his group of friends, bored and seeking a thrill, had heard the tale countless times. They laughed it off, calling it nonsense. That was until one night, when curiosity got the better of them. They decided to visit the mansion, ignoring the ominous warnings from the older townsfolk. The group was made up of 6 teenagers, restless and reckless. The allure of a forbidden location was too tempting to resist, especially one said to be haunted by a cursed spirit. The house itself was nestled on the outskirts of town, crumbling and overgrown by thick vines. Its rotting wood creaked ominously in the breeze as though the very structure was whispering of forgotten horrors. The air was thick with the stench of mildew and decay as Kenji pushed open the door, its rusty hinges groaning in protest. The 6 stepped inside, their flashlights slicing through the oppressive darkness. The air was heavy, and an unnatural chill filled the room despite the humid summer night outside. The legend said that in this house, at exactly 3 a.m., a disembodied, giant foot would crash through the ceiling and demand to be washed. Those who failed to clean it were cursed to a fate worse than death, tormented by the spirit, driven to madness, or worse, vanished without a trace. Kenji laughed as he recounted the details, but his voice wavered ever so slightly. The silence of the mansion seemed to devour the sound of his words, leaving only a lingering sense of dread. As they moved deeper into the house, the atmosphere thickened. Strange noises echoed in the halls, soft creaks, as if something was walking just out of sight. The house seemed alive, each step they took reverberating like a heartbeat through the walls. Suddenly, a loud thud resonated from the upper floor, causing them all to jump. "It's just the wind," one of the girls, Yui, said with a nervous laugh, though her eyes betrayed her fear. But the thudding grew louder, more deliberate, as if something was moving above them, something massive. The group exchanged worried glances, their earlier bravado quickly evaporating. Kenji motioned for them to head upstairs, determined to prove that the legend was nothing more than an old wives' tale. They climbed the decaying staircase, every creak of the wood sending shivers down their spines. The upstairs was even darker, the air colder and more oppressive. As they entered what seemed to be the master bedroom, a strange stench filled the air, like rotting flesh mixed with stagnant water. The room was empty, save for a few pieces of broken furniture and a cracked mirror that seemed to reflect shadows that weren't really there. Then, at precisely 3 a.m., a deafening crash came from above. The ceiling groaned and split open as a colossal, filthy foot, covered in grime and mud, burst through the roof. It was monstrous, unlike anything they had ever seen, human yet grotesquely deformed, with long, jagged nails and patches of diseased, peeling skin. It slammed onto the floor in front of them, shaking the entire house. A voice, deep and guttural, echoed through the room, "Wash me." Kenji and his friends froze in terror, their hearts pounding in their chests. The voice came again, louder this time, "Wash me." Yui screamed, and the others backed away, but Kenji, desperate to prove his courage, grabbed a rag from the corner of the room and moved toward the foot. His hands trembled as he began to wipe the dirt away, but the more he cleaned, the filthier it seemed to become. The foot was covered in a thick, oily substance that reeked of death. As Kenji scrubbed furiously, a low growl filled the room, and the foot began to twitch. The shadows in the room grew longer, twisting and distorting, and a cold wind howled through the cracks in the walls. The other 5 could only watch in horror as Kenji's movements became more frantic. His face contorted with fear, and suddenly, his hands were pulled toward the foot, as if the flesh had come alive and was dragging him closer. The foot surged forward, and before anyone could react, Kenji was yanked toward it, his screams echoing through the room. The others tried to run, but the door slammed shut with a loud bang, trapping them inside. The house itself seemed to be closing in on them, the walls groaning and creaking as if they were breathing. One by one, they began to experience strange, horrific visions. Yui saw her own reflection in the cracked mirror, but her face was twisted into a grotesque grin, blood pouring from her eyes. Taro felt hands wrapping around his throat, squeezing the life out of him, though no one was near him. The others heard whispers in the darkness, voices calling their names, beckoning them deeper into the house. As the chaos unfolded, Kenji's body vanished before their eyes, pulled into the ground by the monster's foot. His screams cut off abruptly, leaving only a deafening silence. The foot remained, pulsating, waiting. The voice boomed one last time, "Wash me." But this time, no one dared to move. One by one, the remaining 5 tried to escape, but the house was alive now, its windows sealed, its doors locked. The floors warped and twisted, sending them sprawling. The shadows grew thicker, almost tangible, wrapping around them like a suffocating blanket. The smell of rot filled the air, and the oppressive sense of doom crushed any hope of survival. By dawn, the house was silent again. Empty. The villagers would later say that the Ashiarai Yashiki had claimed 6 more souls. Their bodies were never found, and the house remained as it had always been, silent, cursed, and waiting for the next foolhardy group to step inside. If you enjoy watching our videos, please subscribe to our channel, and if you wish to get notified when we upload new videos, make sure to hit the bell. Thank you for your time. See you on my next Whisper.